What was the thing that couldn't get done on, not your most recent movie, but going back a movie or two?
Well, it's actually everything that, especially in the last 3 years, people have been extremely aware of the environmental impact of what they do. And I think a lot of people on sets now also think about how they impact the neighborhood they're shooting in. And it's changed radically from time since we started, about just the amazing thing about the attitude of what you're actually doing and your impact on not just a local neighborhood, but on the planet. And what would you say, 75% of the people on Morning Glory would take their bikes to work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we had a lot of people that bike to work.
It was incredible.
Our production manager and producer were from LA, where in LA the standard is you have to buy parking for the crew so everyone can drive to work, because everyone drives in LA, and that's just what's done. So when they talked to me about it initially, saying, what do you do here in New York? Because they had never done a full job here in New York. I said, well, you know, sometimes we do it when the circumstances warrant them, but on most jobs, people just get there. You know, especially if it's in Manhattan. And as Bobby said, a lot of people took their bikes. The people that didn't, a lot of them took public transportation, and the producers didn't have cars themselves. The production manager didn't rent himself a car, and they just got to work. And guess what? The movie still got made.
But the constant thorn in the side of trying to be green is recycling of gels. Even though many gels used for, say, fluorescents or LED, if you have to use them with LEDs, can be reused because they're not high heat intensity lighting units, the gels won't lose their color. But when you're using 18Ks, 12K PARs, 20Ks, the big gel frames will lose their color. They'll not be useful after a couple of days. And there's no way to recycle that product. And that's a thing that's been a constant in our business, and that needs to be addressed by the manufacturers.
Who are?
Roscoe, Lee, GAM, those are the main players in theatrical and cinematic gels. And that's a huge amount of waste that can't be recycled. It's just thrown away, it doesn't biodegrade. And that is, I think, other than power generation, is my biggest impact on the planet, is gel consumption. That's why LEDs would be a fantastic thing with this color mixing if we can cut down the consumption of gels in the first place. And the second thing for us is always power consumption. We use lots of power for lighting, air conditioning, base camp. Well, everything has to be thought out and how to reduce that from the beginning of the film in prep, how you can minimize that. And one of the things that was an obstacle is cinematographers who might not feel that their creative needs can be fulfilled with a certain technology. And sometimes that's an obstacle. But more and more, I see that changing also. I think people are more aware of that there's other solutions. There's more than one solution that they might have. They might think that they've been brought up, they've learned this technique, and they don't feel comfortable with another one, but I think that's changing. I think that they're more open, especially younger DPs are more open now to new technologies and new solutions to lighting problems. And one of the other issues is because budgets are tight and production managers are always very much under pressure to meet those budget targets, dimming systems are one of the first things that can be cut from a budget because of price considerations. But the long-term benefit of that is not factored in. There's no actual number to say how much power you're going to save over, say, X amount of days in this location, that location. There's no formula to plug that into a budget to show someone that in the long run, it's better to pay this money up front because in 3 months from now, we'll have saved X amount of dollars in power consumption and gel consumption.
Could you sell them the dimming system in the form of a green bank, the way Steve sold them the water bottle? You know, in other words, it's worth $7,000 10 weeks from now. So give me the money now so I can put it in.
It's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing. You have to know all the locations. You need to know all the lighting needs. You would need to know exactly what lighting units are going to be used, how much power they would draw at 100%, at 50%, at 25%.
I actually know somebody who can calculate that. Meredith, I'm offering you up. Watch out.
But
we can talk about
as a
that
general
later.
rule, dimming systems will save an enormous amount in power consumption over the course of a film or a TV show. Or
you got me sold.
There's a case to be made that you can save time too, right?
It's much faster to have
Yeah.
the lighting units on
So
dimming
I
systems.
mean, that's the case I would try and make as a production manager to the people above me.
Time, money, and also air conditioning costs, right?
Air conditioning costs are one of the biggest impacts on power consumption that we have in the electrical department, because you cannot, most of the time you can't use the same generator to run the lighting systems and the air conditioning systems because of technical issues. So you would have a separate generator to run the air conditioning systems. So if you can cool the sets off and minimize any air conditioning needs, that again is a huge impact in just power consumption.